Listen, Black Widow deserved her own trilogy. That said, it took Natasha sacrificing her own life to finally get one solo movie, which is meant to be the start of Phase 4, that takes place in the middle of Phase 3, right between Civil War and Infinity War, as she's going through her own domestic war. Like, no lie, this is Marvel's marriage story, but this time it's Scarlett playing the kid.
Because it's not a prequel, it's like kind of a mid-equal.
Yeah.
As one of the OG Avengers, there's plenty that they could have covered for her backstory, and while what we got was decent, it does feel like the third movie in a story arc that we never got, but kept getting teased, and in the end, it feels less of a goodbye to ScarJo and more of a hello to the MCU to Pugh. Let me explain. So the story begins back in 1995 in one of the scariest, most absolutely terrifying places for any superhero, Ohio. I mean, just look at what they did to Spidey. Pretty much, Natasha's been living with an undercover family for 3 years in order to harbor S.H.I.E.L.D. secrets, and once they've got what they need, they're wise enough to dip to Cuba. But that's when the big baddie Dreykov kidnaps them, and we get to see the Black Widow training that's been flashbacked and teased for so long in the form of a titles montage. Now, Marvel hasn't done a title sequence for a minute, and while it would have been really cool to see this as a whole movie, it was a pretty decent opening that felt like a really cool YouTube video edit, which turns out was actually a YouTube video edit. In it, they break down how they select infants for their advanced genes off their parents and then train them through subliminal brainwashing, which, no shame, includes Disney cartoons. They show you the politics of Dreykov and how he's involved with absolutely everyone, even showing us more footage of Clinton than of Clint Barton. But in the end, if you want to see a movie that actually takes place in the Red Room, they said, go watch 50 Shades.
You're not a mouse, Melina. You were just born in a cage, but that's not your fault.
It then flashes to the present where Natasha's on the run as a fugitive because of the explosion in Civil War, and William Hurt continues to play Secretary Ross, who first appeared in The Incredible Hulk, and seeing how they're bringing back Abomination, it looks like the MCU is just taking all of the characters from The Incredible Hulk, putting them in their own movies so that they don't have to deal with the Universal issues. Now, a big reason this takes place in the middle of Phase 3 is so that Natasha doesn't have to deal with all of the other Avengers. As the director quotes, she doesn't need the boys. And so she calls her own U-Boy, who's been there the entire time and is practically her Alfred mixed with Q, who can get her whatever she wants. And according to the press notes, not the movie, Mason was a former soldier turned smuggler who Natasha rescued from a Cambodian prison, and now he lives to serve her. And while I thought it was hilarious how badly she friend-zoned this man, clearly homie never got the message. And it really feels like Disney, once again, is trying to give Natasha more love interest than Taika.
But there's a kind of like romantic undercurrent. You know, well, I mean, at least I'm kind of into her.
Wait a minute, you have romantic feelings about me?
Oh, God. I mean, not in front of everybody.
Out now.
Now, Pugh's character is easily the standout in this movie. Hell, she herself is a Black Widow, so the title might as well be referencing her, because it's clear that she's going to be the one taking the mantle. It's also Yelena who kicks off the plot of the movie when she discovers this red magic dust antidote that helps the Widows snap out of their Midsommar trance and realize that they're being controlled by Dreykov, and so she sends the vials to her estranged sister and pays her a visit by waving a fist in her face. Talk about fighting with my family. I will give their fighting choreography credit because I thought the hand-to-hand combat was pretty cool and way better than the other sibling Toretto rivalry that just it looked like they were playing patty cake. But when it came to the CGI heavy stuff, oh my Feige, did it look like a PS3 cutscene. This isn't uncharted territory for Marvel, so shots should not be looking like this.
I actually had a chat with the stunts team and I said, hey, can you strap us for no reason to these machines? Because I just want to.
As is the case with a lot of 2021 movies, it's all about family. And while a big part of the marketing is that
We didn't have to make it. We made it because we wanted to make it, and that's a good place to start.
It is also designed to answer why Natasha went through with
The Soul Stone sacrifice.
Again, I wish they didn't combine all of the backstory into one and actually fleshed it out into several movies. Have one be about the Red Room and how they were trained, one for the missions, specifically Budapest, and then keep this one as the united ending where they all come together to take down their past. But we're also talking about a movie where the best bits were improvised. The vest with all the pockets came about because Pugh liked the vest with all the pockets, so if you're wondering why after the biggest global rapture of this universe, Natasha didn't bring up the sister whose vest she's wearing, that's why. Pugh also made up the bit about the superhero pose on set when they told her that wouldn't be possible, and that's why she insults Natasha for dancing like Willow when she fights.
The stunties were like, and we've got to figure out your pose. And I was like, oh, Christ, like, what's realistic? How should you land? And they were like, oh, well, none of the superhero poses are correct for landing. I was like, oh, does Scarlett know this? And I remember just being so shocked that everybody would die if they landed the way that they landed. And so I went on set and started being like, Scarlett, your pose, you know, it's... Anyway, I started taking the piss out of her, and Eric was on set, the writer, and he put that right in.
10 years of work, flush it down the toilet.
So shout out to Pugh for really carrying it, because the main thing that was written for her is that she's so angsty and is super anxious to die.
This would be a cool way to die.
This is a much less cool way to die.
This was fun!
I mean, even her favorite song is American Pie, that has the line, "This will be the day that I die." I just wish that in building up Yelena, they didn't have to tear down Natasha. Like she really comes off as someone who's always belittling her little sister. Turns out that she abandoned her. Turns out that she killed a literal child.
Except I'm not the one that's on the cover of a magazine. I'm not the killer that little girls call their hero.
It feels like Marvel's The Last Dance, where they've been slowly getting rid of all of the older, more expensive actors in order to bring in the young blood. I mean, they practically traded in one Scarlett for another.
Yeah, we were just this random other unit that was fighting in a ditch for like weeks. When Lizzie came along, we were like, and where have you been? You get to do the awesome hero pose. We've been eating dirt for, 3 weeks.
After they get together, they set out to get their dad out of a high-security prison by flying in and killing everyone with an avalanche, just to realize that Alexei doesn't know where the Red Room that they're looking for is, because, he's been in prison.
I really am America's ass.
Hell, Boy's also very self-centered, really only concerned about his glory days when he fought Cap, since he was supposed to be the Soviets' Captain Russia, but because this is a movie about family, all the terrible things that he did, like selling out the girls, is forgiven because he sang a song.
And I may or may not, David, have gotten a call at one point. David wants to sing a song in the scene with Florence. He has an idea, wants to sing a song. All right. You can always cut it out.
Melina plays her mother, who's adopted some of the worst traits from Dreykov, who she's the lead scientist for. She's actually the one pioneering this brain control tech to help him build his army, and she tested out on these pigs, who she apparently cares for, by suffocating them. Like, I'm cool with making them scummy people, right? But you can't have it both ways. You gotta go all the way. Somehow she's her comic villain persona of Iron Maiden, who will have them run into the hills, but then she's also Mommy Dearest.
Tell me, how did you keep your heart?
The baddie here, though, is a complete scum. It turns out that the reason they could never find him was because the Red Room, which was created during the 60s space race, was up in the sky, and S.H.I.E.L.D's never had a threat come from up there. But you see, he sees girls as a renewable resource that he wants to control through pheromones, and while they've got the tech to change your entire face, the faculty never thought of other ways to get around this smell, so Natasha has to bust her nose to bust out the worldwide widows.
I think Taskmaster's Natasha's psyche.
Natasha's then forced to face her past when she straight up killed a little girl in order to get to her father, who again is so sick he just turned his own daughter into a War Machine Bucky. They legit had Taskmaster watching the Infinity Saga to mimic all the moves from the past movies, as the writers just mimicked plot elements from The Winter Soldier. And also the villain twist from Iron Man 3. Plain scene and all. Because, you can see it in the walk. They really had the sound mixers pushing the effects up to 11 to overcompensate. She really struts around like she's in Batman's iron suit that would crush Natasha, but it's really all just there to dupe the audience, to the point that they even lied in the marketing.
Taskmaster is an unrelenting force. One of his powers is photographic reflexes.
He has the ability to mimic other characters' moves.
Taskmaster will stop at nothing until he accomplishes his mission.
Disney out here trying to make statements, but can't get Taskmaster's pronouns.
And didn't shortchange him in any way for some sort of agenda.
I was interested in making a film which wasn't saying society committed these crimes, but saying my family did.
So, not Black Widow. If y'all haven't caught lore, do so, because I don't know how Cate Shortland went from that movie to this. I know Marvel wants them to just direct half the movie, right? But damn, Martel was right about how they approach filmmakers. I was wondering why several shots here resembled Mission Impossible Fallout, only to find out that they actually tried getting the cinematographer from Mission Impossible Fallout. They even had delayed crediting who the cinematographer was going to be, which was a little bit of a big deal, until you realize that they got his blueprints and then swapped them. I guess they really were inspired by White Widow, just didn't have that authenticity.
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, why? So he's Russia.
Yeah.
In Russia. Mm-hmm. He'd be speaking Russian. Mm-hmm. Yes. So the entire movie should be me speaking Russian with subtitles.
No, 4 years ago I said to the producers, if we didn't make the film in German, then I couldn't direct it. Because I just knew it wouldn't have worked at all.
It makes no sense.
With all the multiverse talks, though, and all the timelines that they're talking about, I guess you can never say never on a return. It might not be the final goodbye, since Mila Jovovich's daughter can take up the prequels that they never gave ScarJo, and also her stunt woman, who's been there since the beginning.
Including Heidi Moneymaker, who does all that's her real name.
I definitely recommend the ESPN doc on her and how her career expanded to include her sister, who also started doing stunt work for Captain Marvel, even filming a scene together where Heidi played the bus-kicking grandma. So it's not just sad to say goodbye to ScarJo, but also to the person who made all of these iconic moves for the past decade, in a movie that's now making fun of all of her iconic moves from the past decade. But with such a long history, it sucks to see that Scarlett went through more battles off-screen than she did on.
Now, were you able to wear undergarments?
You're the fifth person that's asking
Well, no,
that to
because
me. What is going on?
Scarlett, obviously your character could have easily just been kind of written off as the sexy one of the team. How important is it that
Really? Have you seen Chris Hemsworth?
Is it inappropriate?
To ask somebody what kind of underpants they wear?
I didn't ask you what kind.
You just asked me if I was wearing any.
In the end, it's meant to be a movie about self-forgiveness, family, and what leads to Natasha's endgame in the MCU as she wipes out all the red, and as Yelena snatches the mantle and realizes that she too has had all these sisters all along. Now real quick, remember how Iron Man ended his first movie with the line,
"I am Iron Man,"
which came back to play for his incredible final goodbye? Remember how Steve Rogers' send-off was that dance that he had postponed for so long? How Yondu got to die being the daddy figure he knew he was? Natasha got fireflies, which calls back to the beginning of this movie. Firefly. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. We waited this long to get this put into theaters, and then also Premiere Plus access. So, you know, I don't hate Premiere Plus access, but it was interesting to see that NATO, the National Association for the Theaters, came out and, yo, they were dissing this. But that's a whole conversation between movie theaters and Disney for another video, something that we've covered in the past as well. But in terms of the movie, you know, it was okay. I'm happy that she's now executive producer on the final thing that she could possibly get. I know Disney was happy to drop all the highest billing people that they had in order to assemble something else. But when it comes to the character of Natasha, you know, I wish that they had given her a proper trilogy, a proper movie. I still think she should have been there for the Avengers Assemble bit. But I understand that the Fireflies bit here, well, again, just something that came out of nowhere. It's still supposed to showcase that she's supposed to be there forever. I guess also the fact that fireflies, the female fireflies, eat the male fireflies. But other than that, it's a decent maybe junior price. I think at this point I still have it as a rent it. I do wish that they would have delivered on all the stuff that they were teasing throughout all of the promotional stuff. I know that the after credits is again just pushing the fact that it's going to be Pugh's character who's going to continue. They had that Valentina Benadryl de Fontaine come out. It looks like she's going to do her anti-Avengers. We'll see where she takes that. I'm kind of excited for the Hawkeye series. We'll see how that goes, how they were able to expand it. I think he's one of the last OG ones to go. They put Thor with Guardians of the Galaxy to split his billing, but we'll see how they expand it from there. I'm still someone who has been kind of disappointed with the MCU lately. I know not everyone's a big fan of that. It's become a point where you can't say anything negative or else, you know, you're dissing the church. But I'm curious to see where they take it. I hope they're still able to do some good stuff, because as excited as I was for them to get directors who come from an independent scene, it seems like they're just getting directors who, you know, aren't really a part of big agencies, and thus they're able to make, you know, the same movies that they've been making without any pushback. But we'll see where they take this, and I'm curious to hear your theories on what they're going to do with all these characters. And until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll send you Pugh's Pocket Vest.